Today's video is about working ahead. Working ahead is a great tool for reducing stress in your life. Now, this sounds like a very simple and basic theory, but you'll be surprised how many people fail to work ahead and put everything on the long finger, waiting till the very last moment before they initiate the work, before they start working on a project, before they do something like homework if they're in school, college work, etc., etc. I believe working ahead is one of the number one ways of reducing stress in your life. If you are not under pressure by deadlines, if you have plenty of time to do things when you want to, when you're free when you want to because you've worked ahead, if you're able to take on extra work in different projects that you enjoy doing, if you have time for the gym, if you have time to do some research, this is all possible if you work ahead. I'm going to give you an example from when I was at school. So in school, we had a homework system like in most countries, where you would basically, you would be in class, the teacher would assign some homework, you'd go home that evening and you'd spend 1, 2, 3 hours doing that homework, depending on what grade you were in school. And then if you were at the higher level, at the higher end of school, when you're in your teens, you'd even put in an hour or two of study in there if you were feeling generous to yourself. It may be a bit more if you were not being generous. So you can see how very quickly this work can pile up. Some schools may even may assign this work over a week. They might say on Monday, here's a bunch of homework, go do that, have it done by Friday. Similarly, in college, you have an essay due, an assignment due, some homework due, whatever it is, depending on your discipline. You need that work done, have it done by the deadline. Same way as, your normal job, you could have a project that needs doing, and you need to have it finished by a deadline as well. So those are the 3 examples to have in mind. These are pieces of work that we need to have done by the deadlines, and they often place people under a lot of stress. Their cortisol is raised. When it comes close to the deadline, it's on their mind, they're procrastinating, takes up a lot of their thinking, and then when they actually do the work, often they do it in a very inefficient manner. Unless, they left it really super late and they managed to scratch everything out in the last hour or two, then of course this is super efficient. If, and only if, you were not procrastinating and you were working on other things up to that point. Now, my opinion on this is quite simple. Do the work as early as possible and get it done. I wasn't always so attached to the quality of the work. I was always more concerned about having the work completed to, a pretty good standard, but I wasn't someone for drafting and redrafting essays, for example. I would try to do them once and do them quite well and good enough to pass. And normally I passed with very good grades. But that was often due to the fact that I was not stressed in class. I was getting the work done extremely early and I was able to listen better, and therefore my grades reflected this. So it really depends on the kind of person you are, but I really think for most people they would benefit of working ahead. Now, while I was in school, I did something that most people probably won't do or aren't allowed to do, and I wasn't allowed to do this either, but I would often start doing homework or assignments during class that hadn't even been assigned yet. Because at a certain point you kind of understand the system in school, you understand the structure of the classes and the structure of the work that will be assigned. So if you start school on a Monday and I know that a certain maybe section of a textbook is assigned for homework every single week or every single Monday, I will start working on that section during class, during just a few minutes of downtime, or during a period where the teacher might be explaining a concept I'm already familiar with or comfortable with, etc., etc. Equally, if there's a minute or two between classes, maybe even 5 minutes where a teacher's coming or going, I would do the work in that period as well. And I always had my 2 or 3 hours of homework completed in school. So other people were going home 4 or 5 o'clock and doing 3 hours of homework. So they were sitting until 8 or 9. I had all of this work completed before I left the building. And this allowed me to do many things that I would never have been able to do otherwise, especially cycling outdoors, exercise, meeting with friends, social activities that I wouldn't have had the time to do or the motivation if I knew I had homework hanging over me throughout the evening and the afternoon. You wouldn't have that sense of freedom. So I don't necessarily encourage people to copy my method with doing the work in school, but I personally know for myself it's what let me have a much happier time at school than other people had, because I never had this thing hanging over me and I was able to do all these extra activities. Similarly, now this applies I think to everyone, you can definitely work ahead in college. If you know you have an essay due in a month's time or in 3 weeks time, you should open up a PDF let's say a word editing document straight away as soon as the assignment has been assigned. Throw in the title, throw in a few ideas, and start building on it every couple of days, a couple of hundred words, and before you know it, the assignment is completed 3 or 4 weeks early. If you do this for all your assignments, you'll be finished, and by the time the semester is finished, you'll have everything handed in with minimum stress, while having the ability to do other things that you enjoy. For example, gym, meeting with friends. You'll be that one person who will be much calmer and in a much more relaxed space. And you'll have time to do other things that are important, like researching nutrition, researching basically anything that interests you. But this is the time when you have the free space to do it. And you have the time and the free space to rest, mentally and physically. In my other video, I quoted a famous quote, which is "Live life like lions." So the point being that a lion is either resting or he's attacking. That's a bit of a crude way of saying it, but he's either, hunting, where he's like fully engaged, he's hunting, he's really focused on his task, or he's resting. He's digesting whatever he's eaten and he's really taking it easy. And that way he's in a much more balanced position than someone who's always constantly on or off, kind of jittery, isn't completely focused on a task, is always procrastinating. So if you're living life like a lion, you're doing your essay, you're getting it done, and then you're switching off. You're not doing any college work, you're not doing any normal work. You're basically drawing a line between both parts of your life. It's very similar to when mobile phones were invented. People had this fear that work would follow them home, that the office would follow them into their living rooms, into their kitchens, and they would never really be able to switch off, which has been the case. If we don't just consider work, emails, for example, we could consider just the internet and scrolling on phones, never really switching off, never really having a chance to relax. And phones are a bit different, a different topic, but definitely the case of working ahead allows you to reduce this effect of having to keep this extra work going throughout the day, this kind of procrastinating way of it hanging over your head, of you not being able to relax properly. Again, I can give an example. Right now at university, I was taking 7 classes this semester. I have to take 8 classes in the year, so I've already 7 done, so I worked ahead in that sense. And for all those 7 classes, I had essays due this month. Some of them are due in March. It's February now, and I have all of them handed in. All of them are done. Now, could some of them be done to a slightly higher standard? Yes, if I redrafted them multiple times, I could probably get 5 or 6% more on the grades. But is it really worth it when I can instead be working? I could instead be working on this YouTube channel. I could be working in the gym. I could be doing many other things. So I believe that the balance is worth it, to work ahead, get the papers done ahead of time, and then be able to focus on other things. This theory obviously is a very simple theory. It's a bit like the way we all know we should eat healthily. We all know we should work ahead. We all know we shouldn't procrastinate. And it's really a mental discipline, in my opinion. It's a mental discipline strategy. It's just training yourself to sit down and initiate work early. I'm not saying that you should sit down the first day the essay has been assigned and write it all on the first day. This actually might be detrimental because you mightn't have covered material that is relevant to that essay. Instead, all I believe you should do is write down your essay title, idea, write down a few sources, write down a few ideas, and kind of just start typing away. Type an introduction, type in a few parts of a paragraph of a body that you know can be universally used for this essay topic. It's about working smart as much as working ahead. I was once asked, how do I structure my essays in college? Do I have a plan when I'm doing them? And normally I know in my head exactly how I'm going to say something, and I don't really need to plan it. And I can start writing anything on any topic, more or less, and I can kind of create a structure where I can add on things later on that are completely unlinked to the current topic, but I know it'll all fit together more or less quite well. And this is just something I've practiced over time. So the idea is you're working smart, you're working ahead, you'll have less stress, and of course having stress would be a negative thing, bringing you down, but because you've less stress, you now have more time, which means you can work on positive things. For example, the gym, which now is bringing you up in life and is giving you an advantage over time. And then you have this case of the constant progression over time, where you're constantly improving because you're in a position to do so, and your body is in a position to do so as well, because you're supporting it by not increasing cortisol, by increasing the balance of the body, by having good sleep, by not being worried about essays that are due in a couple of days' time, by not procrastinating, by not sitting on your computer listening to music while you should be typing on an essay. You know, you're cutting all that mess out. You're just getting it done early, bit by bit, and it's a very satisfying way of looking at life, in my opinion. So yeah, guys, work ahead early, whether that's working ahead early in the gym, working ahead in work, at school, at university. That's the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you soon again. Bye, guys.